Happy Sunday, everyone. Back at it again. Hopefully my audio's working. Not sure. So right now I'm working on the painter version of this Blue Marvel commission. Worked on the prelim with Warner the other day. So that got approved. I scanned it and printed it at sketch card size. There's a print. Did a carbon transfer with blue pencil onto the actual card. Masked off the card, mounted to my cardboard. And now I'm basically going to go on pencil and block in all the elements as needed. I don't need hard edges everywhere. It is Blue Marvel, which means that he is primarily blue, except, let me just look up my costume reference here. The cape is white, which means it's going to be gray. Helmet's white. I think it's got yellow eyes. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4 different shades of blue. Yeah, let me know if audio is working. I'll actually, just in case my audio is messed up. Hey, Paul. Let me know if you can hear me. I'm trying something different with the audio. Hopefully it works. Yeah. So yeah, I have. Okay, cool, long and clear. Yeah, so I have my printed out version here to make sure if I have any detailing things as reference. This part can take a bit of time depending on the complexity of the character. It's not necessarily the most exciting part, but also an opportunity to adjust any elements if I don't like the way they look. Kind of like tight pencils, but not really tight, because they don't need to be that tight for paint. It's going to sound silly, but I always struggle a little bit with the crotch piece when doing leotard costumes. Like, how much detail do I really need to bring into this area, right? How long have I been doing cards? So I've been doing cards since Premiere 17. That was my first set. And that was a bit of a learning curve. Took a bit of getting used to the work at this size. And now I'm trying to get accustomed to work at a larger size. Because as much fun as it is painting this small, it's a lot more fun painting larger. So actually has um, he's got a very complex symbol because it's a oval with a double M in there. So do want to make sure I get that really well defined in pencil. Paul's asking, what did you do prior to getting cards? Same thing I do now. um, so kind of my origin story, if you will, is that I have a fine arts background education that I stepped away from in 2000 or 99 and went into graphic design, web design, stuff like that, to the digital space, and pretty much stopped drawing and painting for a very long time. And then a few years ago, well, actually more than a few years ago, I realized that I spend way too much time on the computer and started sketching and doodling again, just as a means to unplug. And started off on Instagram, started posting some stuff, and then one day Upper Deck messaged me and asked me if I wanted to do sketch cards, and I said, yeah, sure, why not? Sounds like fun. So that's how I got into it, and I just spend more time doing art now than I did before, which is great. Working on sets and commissions and everything else, but most of my time is spent running a digital agency, consulting on marketing, branding, digital strategy, stuff like that. So I don't do art stuff full time. It's kind of an evenings and weekends type of thing for me. And I really enjoy it. So that's why I keep on doing it. Maybe one day I'll get contracted to do some commercial work and, start spending more time, or not spending more time, being able to dedicate more time. Thanks, Paul. So I do have a fine arts background. Originally, my career plan was to be an animator, but turns out I don't have the attention span for it. I was just before I went live, I was chatting with Watch Me Open. He just hit one of my MM20 Venoms, which I forgot existed. So it's nice to. It's really nice when someone in the groups or someone that I talk to on a regular basis hits um, hits one of my sketches. Um, doing cards, is that how I met Warner? Yeah. I've actually never met Warner in real life. Um, we have this strange virtual relationship, if you will. I think the first time I talked to Warner was when he was on the Card Collectors podcast, and he was talking about streaming or trying to stream or something. I can't remember what it was that he said. But I went on Instagram and started following him and messaged him and said, "Hey, do you want to maybe hop on a stream and shoot the shit?" And he's like, "Yeah, totally." And that's how I met Warner. That's actually how I met Rodney, um, Sean Forney, J5, um, Gordon Wills, Jason Montoya, Paul Hale, all those guys. Mark La Peruta, I'm butchering his name. Again, another one whose name I'm about to butcher. Peter Pitternetz. Yeah, I met a lot of great people, artists, and as well as collectors. Right. JD, I met through the groups. Talked to him a lot. No, he's gotten a couple of commissions over the years. And Matt Fuller, who's a prolific sketch collector, he's one of the first commissions I did. And I had no idea it was him. He commissioned me through Blowout a long time ago for a puzzle. And that was one of the first ones I did. And it wasn't until earlier this year that I figured out it was him, because he had a goofy, has a different avatar or screen name on Blowout. And we're just chatting. I was like, "Oh, what other cards of mine do you have?" And he showed them to me. I was like, "Oh crap, that's you. I remember doing that commission a long time ago." So small world, great community. Yes, Paul, you do. Trying to remember which ones you have. I think you have. Do you have the Venom 5x7, the head, and Vader? I think, right? Yeah, there you go. Can't remember people's names, but I remember what art they have. Yeah, this reminds me, we need to do some more Star Wars stuff one day when I have time. So I know there's glare, but so this is looking so far. I think I'm actually going to hit this with an ink wash before starting with color. So on average, what does a piece like this take to do time-wise? So an average card, let's see what I can show. So like, these I can show. So a painted card like this, that needs to be varnished, and this needs to be varnished as well. Something like that, and probably same thing as this guy. Average about 3 hours start to finish. Yeah, depends on the amount of detail and the size of the character. I mean, if it's something where it's a straight portrait, let's see if there's something I can show. Like, you can't tell what set this is from. So something like this, that was faster. That was only maybe 2 hours, but there's a lot less to the card. Some things take longer than others. Character makes a big difference. If there's skin tones, that adds 20 minutes. Skin tones are hard to nail down, and you have to be very patient with the paint as you build it up. I mean, this one so far, I think it was 40 minutes on the prelim, on the large prelim. So, and then 10 minutes to transfer, and what, like probably another 20 minutes to do that, redo the pencils. Never really, well, not never really, but I don't usually time myself. But I have a good sense of how long stuff takes based on, how many cards I get done in a week. Could probably do them faster, less detail, or if I just went and maybe with marker and do flatter colors. But I enjoy painting, so I try to just paint things out as much as I can. And as I get more and more comfortable with the acrylic paints, I'm trying to do more and more advanced techniques, which take longer, obviously. So it's a balance. With set cards, sometimes I'll have to sacrifice quality, or not quality, but detail or color depth, just because of time constraints. But for commissions, I really don't want to cut any corners. And there's never any real rush, so taking the extra time, I think, is a wise move. I used to draw back in the 80s and 90s. I'm my worst critic, so I decided to start just altering other people's art in 3D shadow boxes. A little bit easier for me. I actually appreciate everybody's effort in art. It takes a lot, and some people don't realize it. Yeah, I think I agree with you on two things there. One is being your own worst critic, for sure. I think all creatives overthink their work and over criticize their work. Um, and that's something that I think everybody struggles with. I mean, I've talked about this maybe too much, but um, we tend to get in our own head and really not look at what we're doing and be more concerned with what it is that we're trying to do. So a lot of times you'll finish something and be like, "Oh, this is not what I wanted. This is not. I don't like it. This is horrible." And then somebody else looks at it and they totally love it, and that's because they don't know what you had in your head. They're just looking at the final product, and they just take it for what it is. And more often than not, it's good. But yeah, and the other thing is, I don't think everyone necessarily, I don't know if appreciates is the right word, but necessarily understands the everything that goes into creating, be it a card or sketch cover, you know, quick sketch card, detailed sketch card, whatever it is. There's a lot of effort, planning, thought that goes into it. And some people understand it and appreciate it, and some people don't. That's fine. Okay. Let's flip the pencil. So I like with all these pencils with these 2mm leads, I always like to keep one end really sharp and one end dull. What did I just flip the lead? I mean, really, what I should do is just have two pencils, but could, doesn't matter. I'm actually pretty sure I have like 7 of these. But with the dull edge, it's easier to shade without scratching the surface. Then I'm just blocking in shadows. I'm not really building value because I'm going to paint over it in a minute. Or in a few minutes. Yep, exactly, Paul. Do you ever get people trying to haggle on the price? Occasionally, but and I used to be a lot more timid with negotiations. But as time's gone on, this is my rate. I think I'm maybe underpriced. For the level of detail and type of art I produce, but that's neither here or there. But I mean, my price is what it is. I understand that it's not necessarily in everyone's budget. But I won't really, I won't haggle. Like, it is what it is. If you want, if it's not in your budget, then, I'm sorry. Um, I'll try to give you other options. Maybe go black and white or not go licensed APs. I charge more for licensed APs just because the way I look at it, the card itself has an inherent value, whether there's anything on it or not. So if you want a licensed AP, that's going to be a little more. But if you want a card and you just want it for the art, just get it on plain stock. Yeah, and like Paul, there's all kinds of different people, and they collect for various reasons and look at art in different ways. Um, and I can appreciate it and I understand it. It's not for everyone. I had someone message me wanting a commission of a specific character, and I said, "Hey, this is what it is." And like, I always love the the response of, "Oh, but so and so charges less." It's like, okay, well then go ask them. I mean, like, I'm not pushing you to do it. This is what the price is. If you like it, um, then cool. If it's not in your budget, or you don't think it's worth what you're paying, then that's cool too. I mean, there's no hard feelings, no animosity whatsoever. But like, don't tell me your cousin can do it for half the price. Just go to your cousin and have him do it for half the price, right? Um, so yeah, I don't haggle. Really, the only place where there's room for savings, I think, is if you do multiple things, because then the shipping gets a little cheaper. Um, so having an Instagram account that opens you up to a lot more people than, say, Facebook. Um, yeah, Instagram is definitely a much better way of building an audience than Facebook, hands down. Where Facebook come is really good is for the communities, for the groups, because you can find uh, people that like a specific subject matter or something, or specific product, like the car collector groups, right? A lot of those people aren't on Instagram, but whenever you post something or share something in there, you're really showing it to the audience that is interested in that product. Like, for example, I recently found a group that's fully dedicated to Venom, and I posted a couple of things and had a really good response. So then I think when once I come out from my commission um, mode, which is still going to be a few months, uh, and I have time to maybe just do a couple of um, just things I want to do, and I really want to start doing sketch covers. That's a good place to uh, potentially sell some original work, or even find some people that would commission some Venoms, right? And I have an unhealthy obsession with Venom, so I do a lot of Venoms. But the MCCW is my home, so everything will go there first. That's relevant. But Instagram, the cool thing about Instagram is that it's not so much about being connected to the person, and there's a goofy algorithm there that determines how your posts get shown and to who and stuff like that. But if you understand how that works and you leverage the algorithm in your favor, you can definitely get a lot more reach. And I have some people that commission me on a regular basis that aren't on Facebook at all, and they just live on Instagram. Um, so yeah, it's just a different audience. And then there's eBay as well, which is a whole different ball game. All right, so let's block in some costume lines so I know where the colors go. So his chest is kind of the light blue. The emblem's the dark blue. The belt is an even lighter blue. These are light blue. These are light blue. Oh, you have to get your kids to up on Instagram. Yeah, Instagram's pretty straightforward. I mean, it's easy to set up. You just go and set up an account and start posting. Frequency is key to engagement, meaning, post on a schedule. And considering this is what I do for a living, I think I do a better job with my social media game, but I don't. And part of it goes back to the reason I do this is to unplug. So I was like, oh man, I should post more. I should do a reel. I should, do more stories, do more stuff like that. But then it's like, I just want to turn off the computer and get off the phone. Let me grab a piece of paper here before I start smudging. And then there's TikTok. I don't get TikTok. I think that's going to die. Instagram and Facebook are really just basically offering the same thing TikTok's doing with better engagement and less 12-year-olds. But Instagram, it's a very viable marketing tool for artists, or anybody really. I mean, that's how Upper Deck found me. I posted some sketch card size things, and I guess they saw the hashtag and liked it. They never followed me or anything like that. They just straight up liked a post and messaged me. So. Hey, Matt, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, Paul. Instagram's all about the hashtags. That's how you get your post discovered. So Instagram works in two ways. There's the feed, your normal feed, which is everything. Well, not everything. It's stuff from people that you follow, and then there's Discover, which is just Instagram showing people content that's similar to other content they liked. So, for example, if you get on Instagram and you like 10 posts, and you go like my page and Warner's and Gordon and whatever, a couple of the sketch card artists, and you like 10 posts that are have the hashtag sketch card in it, then when you go to the explore panel, you're going to start seeing posts, other posts with that hashtag in it. And there's a very complex algorithm behind it that says people that like posts with hashtag sketchcard also like posts with hashtag Spider-Man, for example. So you're going to start seeing more stuff like that. And you got to give it some time for the network to identify what kind of stuff you like, and then they're going to start showing you more and more items within that space. And when you post something, so if I post something today, the way Instagram works, even to your followers, so people that already follow your account, it doesn't show it on the normal feed to everyone. It's going to select 5% of your followers, and it'll automatically show up there. And if people like and engage with that post, and by engage I mean like, share, comment, anything like that, it's a beacon that the Instagram bot uses to identify, hey, this is compelling content. And to a certain degree, it's the same on Facebook. So it knows, okay, this is compelling content, people like to see this, so then it's going to start expanding it to more of your followers and start showing it more in the Discover feed. I mean, that's a very rudimentary explanation of how it works, but I'm sure as you watch YouTube videos and stuff, people always say like, share, and comment. The reason, the important thing behind it is it tells the network that it's on that this content is compelling, and it helps spread it to more viewers. And it just helps the artist or the poster. Yeah, and other things, Paul, videos tend to do a lot better than still images on Instagram. Right now, they're doing a big push on Reels because they're going after TikTok and trying to get the TikTok audience. So if you post a Reel, which is one of those videos of music, that will get stronger reach than an image. And that's because they push their Reels on Facebook as well, which you probably saw. The Reels that you see on Facebook are coming from Instagram as well, so it does help. And I did an experiment a couple of weeks ago to see exactly the difference. And for my posts, a Reel is going to get 10 times, but yeah, from 8 to 10 times the reach of a normal post would, which is massive. So if I normally reach 700-800 people with a post on, and with a Reel, I'll reach upwards to 7, 8, 9,000 people. So as a marketing channel, as part of the marketing mix for any creative, Instagram is very powerful. Doesn't mean you're going to get sales out of everything, but it does help with the overall reach, and hopefully that helps translate into business or exposure, or depending on what your goals are. All right, just getting settled down in my temporary housing. Cool. Don't get too comfortable. Okay, so I think I'm done with the pencils here. So, I decide if I want to do ink washes or not. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to stop sliding. Put a stack of tape at the bottom of the board so the cardboard will sit on it, but obviously it's not thick enough. I'm just gonna add some more tape. I don't want to tape this down because I like to move it around, but Yeah, I mean, what I would recommend, Paul, is take progress pics. People love to see how the sausage is made. Um, that's the kind of content you can create to help you build reach. Um, now, mind you, most people that'll engage with that, they're just gonna be like, "Oh my god, that's so cool," but they're not gonna want to buy it. But in turn, it helps your channel and all the rest of your content get more their reach. It's called amplifying. Um, so you're amplifying. You're using this kind of how it's made content or behind the scenes content to amplify the rest of your content. And now people are going to look at everything or more of your content, and those that are in your right demo, the people that are likely to buy it, regardless of how you decide to price it, um, there's a better likelihood of them seeing it. All right, so I'm gonna prep some ink. So, okay, I don't need to be frugal with parchment paper. So I'm trying to fold the parchment sheet so I can use the back for inks, but this is like $3 for 1,200 yards, so I can just grab a new sheet. So what I've been using lately for a palette is just parchment paper wrapped around a piece of cardboard. Yeah. Parchment paper helps keep the paint a little wet a little longer because it absorbs moisture and doesn't tear. Tinfoil works really well as well, but I don't have any tinfoil at the office because apparently I only have parchment paper. Keeps it parchment taped to cardboard. Okay, where's my inks? Oh, jeez, are my inks not here? No, I'm gonna use India ink on this. This gets messy, so I'm just gonna use Speedball. Do you do all your pieces in paint, or do you ever do a piece all in ink? Um, I do most stuff in paint, just because I enjoy it. When you say ink, what do you mean, like comic book style? That's marker. Amrash, how you doing? Thanks for tuning in. But yeah, most of my stuff I do in paint. I'll use ink as a wash to do the tonal study or define the tones, which is what I'm going to do here. A lot of times I'll just do this with paint, but paint is not as consistent. So what I do when I use ink for this, I'll just mix some ink, like a bunch of ink with water, to give me the transparency that I like, and then that entire batch is going to maintain the same transparency. And so just got to remember to close the lid on the ink, otherwise it's going to dry out. A lot of people do this with Copics as well. So see, I just have a mixture here, and that's what the pigment that I'm going to get out of this whole batch. And if I want to go darker, I'll just add a little bit more ink to the mixture. Do I use watercolor? I occasionally use watercolor, Arash, but most of the time I actually use acrylic. I use acrylic like watercolor, so very watered down for the most part, especially when I first build up the color values. And you'll see once I get this wash down and I start applying color, it's going to look like watercolor, but it's acrylic. And the reason I prefer to use acrylic is because it can be fully opaque. So if you make a mistake, you just paint over it. Or let it dry, then paint over it. Okay, so you used to use watercolor, now you use color pencil. Yeah, I like color pencil too. Haven't used it too much. And it's going to sound goofy saying I find that it takes longer or it takes too long. But considering how long it takes to do things in paint, that just might be me being passive aggressive. Watercolors are fun though. So what I'm doing now is kind of a light or the mid gray. That's I'm covering a lot of areas just with this flat coat. Like this entire side of his body is going to be in shadow, even though there's going to be some highlight, some darker areas. But I'm going to apply this kind of mid gray first, and as it dries, I want to see my pencil lines a little better. And then I'm going to hit it with a darker ink to make the darker areas. Emma Shard, see my art was just a little something, not as poor as yours. Yeah, sure. Is that Instagram or Facebook? Drop a link to the page in the comments, because otherwise I'll forget. Then I'll check it out after. And I'm far from pro, so while I appreciate the sentiment, uh, might be a little misplaced. See, Paul, to me, pro um, means doing commercial work, right? So that's how I would define it. If I ever get a cover or a base card or something for a large publisher, then I'd say, you know what, yeah, I'm pro. But until then, from my point of view, anyways, I'm still amateur or semi-pro, if you will, because I guess I do sell my work, so there's something to be said there. Let's get some more paint. Yeah, so yeah, thanks, man. Just the journey successful. Keep it up. Yeah, thanks, man. It's all about the journey. But on that note, if anyone's watching happens to work for a large publisher and you'd like to hire me to do a cover or something, let's talk. Hey, no problem, Paul. Always a pleasure. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And thanks for tuning in, man. Catch you next time. What time is it? 1:15. Plenty of time. I'm in absolutely no rush today. I would like to think that I can get this done in one sitting, but we'll see. We'll see how the day goes. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry before I start adding more dark valleys. That's blocking the shadow on the cape. A trick for smoother application of any wet medium is to work on a wet surface. Um, so you see how it's a little blotchy here? Part of it is the paper that this is on. I mean, it's not the greatest paper for wet medium, but if you wet the surface before trying to blend colors, it will, or sorry, apply color, it will go down smoother. And I'm not doing it this time, but I really probably should. You know what? Let me do it. Let's grab a bigger brush, some water. I'm just wetting that. Some of the ink's bleeding through, but that's fine. So it's going down smoother. All right. And if anyone's interested, this is cheap Michaels brushes. They get like a whole pack of them for $5 or $7, and this is a number one round. I love them. There's no point for me, anyways, to purchase the expensive brushes because I destroy them, and these work just as well for me. And don't feel as bad throwing them out after a month. So I'm just gonna, there's two ways to darken things. You can either add more ink to your water, to your mixture, or you can just go over things again with the same mixture because you're just applying a second layer of the same mixture. So it's kind of like Photoshop or any application when you just do opacity, right? So let's say this gives it a 10% opacity on the first pass. If you go over it again, then you're giving it a 20% opacity. Go over a third time, 30%, 40%. So you're never going to get pure black, but you can get it very dark. Who's messaging me? Okay, I'll respond to him soon. So he's going to be lit from this side. So my left, his right. So everything on his left is going to be darker because that part's in shadow. So that's what's really going to be the darkest areas. So I'm focusing so much on this side. I just realized I didn't really do anything with his hand. You'll see me wipe the brush off to the side. What I'm doing there is just really getting rid of the pigment, kind of cleaning the brush, but I'm not wiping it completely. It just lets me get rid of some of the ink so I can just blend what I've already applied. See, this is not I'm not too concerned about being super clean with the edges because I am painting over this whole thing. So it's really just about blocking in elements and creating some separation between shapes. This is going to be the darkest, one of the darkest areas. This is going to be his armpit. His thigh. I'm not crazy about the way this came out here. We'll fix that in paint. All right, let's block in his face. Okay, I think I'm gonna let this sit. I don't like to blow dry inks because they tend to sometimes kind of behave weirdly in heat. So I'm gonna let it sit for a couple of minutes and like really kind of dry, but naturally, unnatural. And then I'm gonna start doing color. So I think it's up to the little boy's room. Let's put this here. Yeah, so give me 5 minutes. That should be enough time for this to really kind of dry naturally or enough. And I'll be back. And we're back. What did I miss? Okay, so before I start putting color on him, I want to add a wash to the background. And I think I'm going to do the first pass in watercolor. Because he's blue. Complementary color to blue is orange, yellow, a little bit of purple. So I'll do like a blue, yellow, orangey cloud area there. And this will be watercolor, so I'll make sure that I do wet the paper. Hey, Christos. How you doing today? Let's see, I'm just going to wet the paper. Now, last time I wet one of these cards, I got some weird values. So hopefully that was a one-off. But yeah, see, it's kind of getting a little color there. And there's a little, I'm just gonna soak it in there. I think that's nice and wet. It's actually not Dr. Fate, it's Blue Marvel. There's a lot of design similarities between the costume. He's got the kind of the pointy helmet, but he's blue with a white cape. And character that I don't really know much about, but he's one of the most powerful characters in the Marvel world, apparently. Yeah, it's a little more pigment there. Yeah, I didn't know much about him either. Mentioned it before, working watercolor, the paper is insanely important because quality paper will really take well to the watercolor. It'll absorb the paint evenly and let you get streakless washes. This paper is not the greatest for watercolor, as I've discovered, but because I'm just doing this as a base wash, it should be fine. If I get any weird grays, like here, we'll see what that looks like once it's dry. But if that looks weird, I'll just go over it with some acrylic or gouache. I made one where it's comic style. Most of drawing, I'm just trying to look for my style. I made one that is comic style and cartoon style. Style is very subjective, man. Um, just draw and whatever you want, then eventually you're going to just say, hey, that's my style. It'll just kind of come out of what you're doing. And don't try to hide your influences, right? Like, if you like, for example, Jim Lee or David Finch, if you like that gritty, inked look, do that. And you will evolve it into your own version of it. I think a lot of people get stuck on the notion of, I need to define a style. No, you don't. Christos, paints are not hard. I know they're intimidating, and I was intimidated as well trying to get into paint. There's a bit of a learning curve, but paints actually really, I'm actually going to say, are probably easier to use than like colored pencils or marker. Once you get a feel for it. Yeah, like Jim Lee's art and David Finch work, it's the cross hatching them that's a little hard, so I'm practicing that. I mean, David Finch is all about the cross hatching. Um, and he's got a ton of tutorials where he explains the process and kind of how to do the lines, but he also explains how to approach cross hatching and um, how to envision and look at the shape so you know how to cross hatch it. Because if you break down cross hatching to what it really is, you're just making lines, right? Takes a little bit of practice and building up a little bit of muscle memory to have that control over the pen to get a consistent line weight, line thickness, all of that. But what makes him, or what makes his work stand out so much, is the way he defines the forms and the way he creates the shape using cross hatching. Just I'm doing a couple of washes. It's really starting to even out, so it's not that bad. I'll make sure I don't over wet because I'm starting to peel the paper. Nobody wants that. That's what it's looking like. Painting's is not as hard as it looks. Just takes practice, like anything else. So you know what I'm gonna do? So this I'm doing what I'm doing right here is actually watercolor. I'm going to go with acrylic over it. This is going to be finished in acrylic. The gray is India ink, but I'm going to go over the whole thing in acrylic. The only thing I'm going to do, since I have the watercolors out right now, is I'm just going to give our guy here a blue wash in watercolor just to give me a touch of pigment and a kind of a flat color to work with. So all the stuff that's blue. So that's his neck. He actually uses 3 different blues in this costume, but I'm just gonna create the base blue right now. That's blue. This whole okay, so using you're not using a transparent paint, you're using like acrylic or oil or gouache. Like a non-transparent paint, not watercolor. Go with a darker blue. Yeah, this is just a wash to define a little bit of the color values. It's not going to be the final color. This also helps seal in some of the ink. Use this blue to basically draw in the emblem, which is a little complicated. We'll do the cape as well as a base. Let's see if I can get. Nope, that's too. Yeah. No, it's too wet. I'm starting to get a little color bleed. I'm gonna hit it with the blow dryer. Hey, thanks. Plug in my hair dryer. So I'm just gonna mute myself while I blow dry because I don't want to blow anyone's eardrums out. All right, that should be dry. Dry enough. Yeah. All right, so let's get our acrylic on. I'm going to start with the lightest parts, and the reason I'm going to do that is in case I paint out of the lines, it's easier to cover with dark. So I'm going to do the head and the cape and the inner part of the chest. So I'm going to mix some white, a touch of black, hint of gray. Anyone's interested, today I'm using a combination of Liquitex Basics, Deco Art, and the Craftsmart. So I think Craftsmart is Michael's brand or Walmart brand or something, some house brand. I want a touch of red. Touch of yellow. I think that's pretty much all I need. So, I'm going to stick a piece of paper here because it'll be easier to see the colors. Trying not to paint where his eyes are. use a bigger brush for the cape. Oh, that's not good. Okay, so I dip my finger in yellow. Huh. That's going to be a pain to fix. Stupid yellow paint. I think I have no choice but to go a little darker with the gray to cover up that mess there. Which means I'm gonna have to throw some black into the mix. I'm planning it originally, but you do what you gotta do. I'm not starting over, that's for sure. One of the main reasons I like to tape the card to a larger piece of cardboard is to give me the flexibility to move it around like this without touching the surface. I mean, if I was working with the card as is, I'd be constantly touching the card and manhandling it with my Yeti hands. So this way I can just move the cardboard and, unless I dip my fingers in paint again, I should be good. So let me throw some black in the mix so I can darken my gray for the cape. Let's darken all of that there. To go even darker. Oof. gonna glaze that in a minute. Just let the rest of it dry. Oh. I actually think I have no choice but to go dark, really dark here, and then highlight it after. That's the only way I'm going to cover that bright yellow spot. Which is, I guess, fine. It's just more work. Okay. Okay. Blow dry it a second. Mute. Okay. I'm gonna have to come back to that. That is really not. I'm not happy with that. But I'll come back to it. All right. Let's move on to the blue. So I'm gonna start off with some mixture of Copenhagen blue with black with a touch of red to give it a little warmth. Which looks like this. It looks almost black. It's actually very similar to a Payne's gray, but it's got a little touch of red in there. so that's dark blue, that's dark blue, that's dark blue, that's dark blue, and that's dark blue. Okay, so on all the areas that are dark blue, I'm blocking in the shadows for the third time. But because I've done all the underdrawing, all the underpainting already, this is pretty much like coloring by numbers, right? Like, okay, this needs to be dark. So we're just going to go over it and darken it. I'm doing it a little tighter than I did with the inks. You know what? Since I'm doing this, might as well do the darkest areas here as well in the same color. Right. All right, let's do this hand. Do a shadow underneath the cape. Alright, let that settle for a bit. I need to get that a little darker actually. I just did a diluted black. It's kind of essentially an ink wash, but with acrylic. Just to find the shadows on his upper body. Try to give the gauntlets a little bit of sheen to make them look like they're a different surface. I'm not sure exactly if that's just part of the same costume or not, but I think it'll just look a little better if it pops. So in order to create that pop, I need stronger contrast. So the shadows on it are going to be really strong. To do that, I want to make the darks really dark before I do the wash. Do the same thing on the belt. That was a 220. Yeah, let's see where else I need to do. Black is just under his eyes. All right, so let's mix a light blue. So this area, the gloves, his kind of the boot things of his legs are a lighter blue. So I'm gonna prep a mix for that. I'm just gonna use my Copenhagen blue with some white. So I think that looks like this. That should be a good base wash. Yeah. Similar to the original watercolor wash, but it's a little more pastel because of the white mixture in there. And then his belt is even lighter, so I'm going to throw in a little bit more white. Should be fine. Oh, we're definitely going to need to go lighter with the belt. No, let's do this. So when I start in a minute, when I'm going to apply the dark blue, which is just going to be straight Copenhagen blue mixed with water, on the dark areas, you're going to start seeing a difference, and it's going to start making sense. Because right now it kind of looks like the same color, especially on camera. Starting to get some separation between the blues, but still maintaining those darks. Which are very important. It's all about contrast. Starting to get more and more form with every pass. Yep, so as one area starts to dry, I'm going to go back in and do another layer, another pass. Yep. To just bring up some more color. help form those shapes. If I want to make sure I don't have any white left behind. If I overworked an area, like I did the bicep, I'll just go like here. Just go with a dark and bring it back. The highlight on his butt there is definitely too strong. I'm gonna start building out some, finalizing the forms on the gauntlets. Just really blocking in those shapes. So I'm not using pure white yet. That's going to be at the very end, just very light blue. Yeah, so not much to say really. At this point, it's just building values, or sorry, building highlights. All the darks and the midtones should be in place by now. So I'm just really adding highlights to define the form. Working on the light areas first because, like I said before, easier to go to from dark to light in most cases, except there. Should be good for the darks. Getting there. Cape is definitely bothering me, and I think what I'm gonna have to do is just mix three different shades and with no water, and just full on repaint it, the shadows on the cape. It's the only way I'm gonna get it to look the way I want it to look. Yeah, now I'm gonna get pure white. And really start doing the white edges everywhere. gonna do the emblem, and do want to make this a little different shade of blue, so I'm gonna actually go more purplish. I'm gonna try to keep it pretty flat. Alright, let's try to do the eye, or the eyes. See what's the best brush for that. That's enough. Adding a touch of yellow to the highlight. I'll go back in with white in a second, but I just want to add a little bit of warmth. Just ties them into the environment a little better. And I'm gonna go back on white and add a white highlight on top of it. Fix that edge there. All right, so I need a gray. I think I've got my gray. A dark gray. Okay, this is going to be emotional. This is either going to work or it's not. That's not dark enough, so that's not going to work. But we're losing the yellow spot, so that's good. At least that. Okay, so now we're going to go with a lighter version. Oops. It's better. Not super not exactly what I wanted to do, but I think it'll do. All right, so what I want to do now is add a highlight here. So just some watered down acrylic white. So dab it on and then blend it in. This is the same as you would do with watercolor. Working wet on wet. Just a slight hint of clouds. add a touch on this side too, just to balance it off. Just clean the brush and then blend it in. There's some fibers, I think they're coming off my rag. It drives me nuts, and they kind of stand out a little bit in the medium once it gets glazed. So I think this is pretty much done. I'm actually, just because I'm gonna varnish it, I'll come with the jelly roller and just add some jelly dots on the helmet. Sometimes it's easier to use a pen than a brush. This is just a black pencil. Gonna make some of the blacks, like some of the dark areas, a little more defined. And just simpler than a brush. And I think that's it. So what I like to do with every painting is let it sit overnight, let the paint settle properly, and Gonna see how it behaves before I varnish it. Might need to pop some contrast a little bit more, like a little bit more dark or lights, but I think this is going to be fine. What should we do now? What time is it? 3:20. All right, set this guy aside. Let him dry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Got 11 things to varnish tomorrow. Can get rid of this. All right. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the transfer on this logo sketch and then call it a day. But at least this will be ready for ink next time or later tonight. Should be off stream. So when I talk about carbon transfer, what I mean is I do a printout of the drawing. Where's the prelim on this? Okay, no, I don't. Oh, there it is. So I had this prelim sketch from a couple of days ago. The commissionee approved it. So printed it. Just took a picture of it and printed it. And what I'm going to do now is just cover the back. Actually, let me make sure I don't waste my time. This is the only area I really need. So just shade the back of it. You can use colored. So I've never tried like a Prisma color. I'm not sure how that will look, but just want to make sure I get the important parts. Or you could just use a plain pencil. Not too soft because it'll make a mess. Like an HB will work. H is too soft. So H is too hard and you don't get enough dust on it. Grab a couple of pieces of tape. Just little pieces of tape like that. There's my paper, and I'm just going to line it up as to however or wherever I want to put it. I thought I did this clear. Where's the Superman logo? There. So I'm going to put a piece of tape there to hold it down. Put a piece there to help hold it down. Make sure I put one at the bottom to hold it down. And I'm just going to grab a ballpoint pen and trace over the basic shapes that I'll transfer. So the parts that I'm most concerned about is the face and the general shape of his hands and the hook. This one I'm going to do in a slightly different technique. So I'm actually going to ink the whole thing. This is a trick I picked up from Jeff Miracola. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to leave the cigar in his mouth. But let's draw it in just in case. Yeah, let's do the hand. Going to transfer some of my reference lines because they're going to be important when I define the form with ink. And when I ink this one, I mean, I'm actually going to black line it in microns, not an ink wash. And the reason I'm going to do that is I want to paint this in a very very messy way, if you will, where it's going to be more about the form and less about direct detail. His arm is going to cut off screen, off the card, but that's fine. I don't care. I'll make sure to do a double bicep there, because Lobo's a big boy. Sure eats his Wheaties. It's actually the end of his vest there. So I have his weird hook thingy. That's all good. It's going to be muscles on top of muscles here. It's not going to be very anatomically correct. And then his hair. It's going to and just block in where it goes. This is all going to be messy, and I'll probably get the texture I want with the inks there. Oh, I definitely need to get his eyes, because I did struggle with those when I was doing the drawing. Okay, so if I did this right and didn't miss anything, let's see. So a little peek. Looks okay. I'll tape that back down. Let's see how it looks like on this side. Looks okay. I do need some detail here. That's it. So you can see very faint lines. That's really all I need at this point. And I masked off the Superman logo, so that's just masking tape, and I kind of fussy cut around the edges, just so I keep it nice and clean. Because we have something special planned for that. Making a mess here. So this is a Superman case topper. I'm not sure what set these blind cards come in, but it's a little bigger than a sketch card. 3.5 by 5 maybe, which is coincidentally the size that I do my prelims at. So now I'm using a 003 micron. I'm just going to grab all the pencil line work I did, and the reason I use such a small pen at this point is that these lines are just there so I can see them, and then I'll ink over and get the detail and texture that I really want. But this is just so I have a inked line to work with. Try to make the lines as purposeful as possible here because I don't want kind of chicken scratches. So leaving the cigar in. Got a little chin butt there. Not really going for a cartoony look, but I do want to give him, make sure I give him like really animated. Like he's a character, right? He's not realistic by any means. So I'll flush out the hair later. Not sure what happened there. The line went really wonky. And this is going to be an edge-to-edge painting, meaning there's no borders. Um, what was it? Very thin lines. Now using number 1 micron, just gonna do the main outline. Just so it's blocked in. Give me an opportunity to clean up some of those messy lines from before. I could still get rid of the cigar. I haven't decided if I want to keep it or not. That's what other lines matter. This line matters. Okay. We're gonna go crazy with the inks on this guy. But I don't think I'm gonna get started on that today. I'm gonna light him like that, so a lot of the shadows are gonna be underneath. Well, that's the kind of inks we're gonna do here, like that, like the um, really messy stuff, which don't necessarily make sense. They will once there's color on it. So I'm not gonna ink this now, but I'm kind of tempted to start blocking in some elements. What time is it? 3:45. I got maybe another 10 minutes in me, and then I'll wrap it up. But this paper really does like to soak up the ink, though. Damn. Okay, I think that's going to be it for today. 3.5 hours enough. There's the InkSun logo. I'll come along probably tomorrow. And let's see how our boy is drawing here. Yeah, this looks good. Once varnished, this is going to really pop. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in and spending some of your Sunday with me. Always a pleasure. I'll be back later on this week working on not sure what, but there's no shortage. That's it for now. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Catch you next time.